So we're going to be starting. Dear colleagues, dear participants of today's side event on engagement of academia and students from Central Asia in climate-related studies and Ipcc activities and findings. This online event is organized by Central Asia Regional Environmental Center with the participation of representatives of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, so-called Ipcc, in the framework of the Project Climate Adaptation Mitigation Program for Aral Sea Basin, CAMFOR SB, supported financially by the World Bank. Today, all of us gathered here and in order to maintain the overall work and to see how we can join the academia, the young specialists, and other representatives of all our main stakeholders from our countries to engage jointly on the issues of climate-related studies. Today's side event is going to be started by welcoming speech of Executive Director of the Central Asia Regional Environmental Center, Mr. Zafar Mahmudov. Please, Mr. Mahmudov, the floor is yours.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники. Я буду говорить на русском языке. The English-speaking participants, you can change your channels to channel number 5 in order to hear the translation. Channel number 3 is the floor. Я хочу еще раз поприветствовать сегодня наших участников, на этот раз участников на нашем сайд-ивенте ознакомление академических кругов и студентов из Центральной Азии с исследованиями по вопросам изменения климата и результаты работ НГИК. Встреча, посвященной науке и ее неоценимому вкладу в противостояние глобальным климатическим вызовам. Уважаемые представители научно-исследовательских институтов, высших учебных заведений, коллеги, сотрудники межправительственной группы экспертов по изменению климата. Сегодня мы все хорошо понимаем, что изменение климата – проблема комплексная, которая охватывает водную и энергетическую и продовольственную безопасность любого государства. Соответственно, академическая составляющая и академические сети, направленные на распространение и обмен знаниями на региональном и национальном и местном уровнях, с каждым днем приобретают все больше и большее значение. Поэтому региональный экологический центр Центральной Азии акцентирует внимание на усиление регионального сотрудничества и партнерства научно-исследовательских и образовательных сообществ в регионе Центральной Азии. Оперативное обеспечение высококачественными прогнозами, ранним предупреждением поможет не только предотвратить и смягчить последствия стихийных бедствий, но и сократить масштабы ущерба имуществу и окружающей среде за счет более эффективного управления климатическими ресурсами. Ключевым звеном в области прогнозирования и выработки адекватных мер реагирования являются высококвалифицированные кадры. А вот подготовка кадров такого уровня – это ответственность и одновременно заслуга преподавателей высших учебных заведений. Учебные программы и пособия, которых нуждаются в системном обновлении в соответствии с быстро меняющимися мировыми тенденциями и разработками в сфере обработки климатических данных и прогнозирования. В связи с этим РЭЦ в рамках реализации проекта CAMFOR SB содействует обновлению учебных программ и повышению квалификации преподавательского состава. Так, в 6 вузах стран Центральной Азии успешно разработаны специальные главы и разделы по климатическому и гидрологическому моделированию с учетом современных требований. РЭЦА также продолжает работу по поддержке и развитию сети академических сообществ, которая объединяет ученых и исследователей Центральной Азии. Должен отметить, что на Центральноазиатской конференции по изменению климата, которая проходила в июле этого года в городе Душанбе, в ходе сессии «Наука для поддержки принятия климатически устойчивых решений» роль молодых профессионалов была особо подчеркнута, что ученые Центральноазиатского региона недостаточно представлены в мировых процессах по обсуждению проблем изменения климата и формирования мировой повестки дня по климатическим вопросам. Кроме того, практически отсутствуют авторы, участвующие в рецензировании докладов МГИК в регионе. Это объясняется рядом факторов, включая языковой барьер, низкую осведомленность, недостаток поддержки со стороны научных институтов. Ключевые фигуры при одолении этих барьеров – это молодые ученые Центральной Азии, обладающие необходимыми современными навыками и знаниями. Поэтому так важно продолжить работу среди молодых ученых Центральной Азии по усилению их осведомленности об участии в работе по оценочным докладам МГИК. Для этого в регионе необходимы дальнейшие системные усилия по повышению потенциала молодых ученых и профессионалов, а также создание условий для активного вовлечения молодых ученых в формирование климатических решений и устойчивого развития. И РЭЦА намерен оказывать поддержку для успешного достижения этих целей. Уважаемые участники, разрешите еще раз поприветствовать вас и выразить уверенность в вашей эффективной и плодотворной работе. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoudov. And continuing for the welcoming speech, we're inviting Mr. Jonathan Lane, Head of Communications, Ipcc. Mr. Lane, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you very much, and I'll speak from down here. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be able to join this CARIC event because the Ipcc now has a long and traditional cooperation with CARIC. We've been fortunate to be able to present some of our work at events hosted by CARIC in the region, and we're very grateful for all the support that CARIC brings us. Now, as you know, the Ipcc released the first part of its sixth assessment report, the physical science basis, 3 months ago in August, and you'll be hearing about that today. And besides giving us an update on the latest knowledge about climate change, this report has a number of innovations, and I think perhaps the most important was a much bigger focus on regional information, which of course is so much more policy relevant perhaps than the global picture. And we're very fortunate to have, firstly, we have Richard Jones, who's one of the leaders of the work in this area, who was also the coordinating lead author of the Interactive Atlas, which is one of the innovative features of this program. And then our two other speakers, Svetlana here, and joining us remotely, Mohammed Rahimi. They are speakers from the broader region around Central Asia who can go into some of the detail on the findings. And also you'll be hearing a bit about how the Ipcc works, and Svetlana Krakowska can tell us something about that. This is very important because we, as we just heard, we are very keen to have a greater involvement in our work from the region, more of your scientists and experts joining the work of the Ipcc. For instance, you may not know that the Ipcc does not conduct any research itself. We don't do any original research. We don't measure data. We don't do observations. Our job is to look at all the thousands of scientific papers that are produced across the world every year, and then to assess them in order to tell policymakers, to tell governments, as well as citizens, this is the state of knowledge, this is our understanding of climate change. And if we don't have that research, then there's nothing for the IPCC to do. And we have big information gaps from your region. So we really hope that we can find a way of helping your scientists to publish, so that we can include that work in our assessments, and also to involve your young scientists in the other work, the preparation of reports. You'll hear more about this from Svetlana, but for instance, the review process, which is so very important and which is a very good way in for your experts to contribute to the work of the IPCC. Well, as you know all too well, Central Asia is one of the most climate vulnerable regions in the world, not least because of the issues around water. And so it's all the more important that we get the research and the information from your region, so that we can inform the rest of the world about it as part of our assessment process. Well, I wish you all a fruitful discussion as well as the presentations. There'll be time for a Q&A afterwards, and very looking forward to our event today, and in the longer term to greater participation from you in our work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lind, and thank you for a great introduction of the IPCC mandate. And it's also really honored for me that today we're going to be jointly co-moderating today's event. So the next speech and the next presentation is going to be done by Svetlana Krakowska, IPCC author, on the IPCC role and overview of the latest IPCC climate reports. Please, Ms. Krakowska, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm really very happy to be here at this event and to have opportunity to share my experience with my work in IPCC. I really want to tell you about my story when I actually was involved in IPCC, and I work for Ukrainian Hydromet Institute, and I work for National Antarctic Scientific Center in Ukraine, but I'm leading HASA as well for Interactive Atlas and Technical Summary, and I'm contributing also to SPM and other chapters. Just to show that actually I was involved in IPCC work from fifth cycle when I was representative of Ukraine. So I started to understand how IPCC works from side of, let's say, governmental representative. And then I decided that it is really interesting for me as scientist to be involved in preparation of the report. So I will start with the role of the IPCC, actually, and as Jonathan said, that we in IPCC we do not give and do not do any particular research, but we do assessment on comprehensive, objective, open, and transparent basis of scientific, technical, and socioeconomic information relevant to understand to the scientific basis of risk of human-induced climate change. So we suppose that IPCC reports are neutral with respect to policy, while they have their policy relevant. Well, okay, if we go to the structure of Ipcc, so it has actually several working groups and task force on national greenhouse gas inventories. It has executive committee, bureau, and plenary, and everything rely on authors, contributors, and reviewers, in fact. So here we are representing actually with Richard both working group 1 and this report of the physical science basis. Well, it's a very famous actually slide which represents the history of Ipcc, which goes back from 1988 when it was established by 2 UN bodies, WMO, World Meteorological Organization, and the United Nations Environmental Programme. Actually, it was done on the request of governments because they wanted to know what happens with climate in future, because some scientific papers actually appeared. And you see with this arrow how this scientific papers review literature actually grew actually, and interest and the awareness of public actually with this. And you can see some, so here you see this first, second, third, fourth, and fifth report, as well as special report on 1.5. And now we are in 6th cycle. So all work of Ipcc divided by cycles. And just to show that in 2007, actually, Ipcc got Nobel Prize of Peace. And in this year, I'm pretty sure that you know that some physicists actually got Nobel Prize in physics, which is in recognition this methods and climate models. And this is really very big event, very big actually recognition for us, because for many years we were told that our model is not reliable, we have too much uncertain our projections. So when we have this Nobel Prize, I was really happy to show this to my colleagues and just to inform you about this, and you can actually see more. But just to briefly to say what Sukiro Manabe actually done in late 60s, he assessed how much will grow temperature near surface and in stratosphere if the concentration of CO2 will double. So this is actually 300 ppm, and we have twice more and less. And you see response of the climate system actually. And what we see now is that our model, they have the same response. So these models really show us true response. And other Nobel actually Prize winner, Klaus Hasselmann, he proposed the method for so-called attribution. So how to separate this human actually influence on climate system. And this actually graph shows that it's clear, visible that only with the real concentration of CO2 you can reproduce a real observational growth of temperature. So this blue one, it shows what will be if we will not emit in atmosphere CO2. So again, so for many years, we knew it, but now we have recognition that it is true. Well, so coming back to Ipcc, why Ipcc important? Just because actually the first assessment report actually lead to what we have now here, this conferences of parties, but this is UNFCCC actually established after the first report. After the second report, it was Kyoto Protocol actually done, well, prepared and accepted. After third report, it was clear that we need actually adaptation. So we will, anyway, climate change will impact our society, humans, ecosystems, so we need adaptation. After fourth report, we have this decision on 2 degrees. So it's just where from these 2 degrees we have, in fact. And after fifth report, we have Paris Agreement, which is really big achievement and the start of really growth of a lot of attention to this problem in the world. So what now will be in this sixth assessment report? So this sixth assessment report actually is the most ambitious report, because we already have in this sixth assessment, we already have 3 special reports. One was on global warming code 1.5 in October 2018. Then we had reports on ocean and cryosphere, and we had report on land. And we had actually methodology on greenhouse gas inventories. So it was in May 2019. And now we are here. So we just approved, so in August this year, this report, which is from General Secretary of OON, it's Code Red for Humanity. So we didn't want actually to, to threaten too much, but in fact, what we have in this report somehow, we see. And it has really impact on what happens now in UNFCCC. So after the first report, it was Talanoa dialogue, and we expect after all reports of this 6th cycle in Ipcc, after synthesis report, this global stocktake, which will take place in 2023. So now coming to how this Ipcc report produced. So this is actually pretty long process, and I now can say as author of Ipcc report, somehow it's similar how you want to publish in peer-reviewed literature. So first you do some scoping. So governments actually, they make this scoping. So they want something to see in this report, and they approve these outlines of future report, which experts then take and start to work on it. Again, governments in focal points, actually, they nominate authors. So I could say my experience. So before we nominate author for 6th cycle, actually we invited Jonathan Lin to Ukraine, and we make very big event. Sorry. Sorry.
Unless you're seated in a room with witnesses, while eating or drinking,
Oh.
you are permitted. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, coming back to this event, actually, when we met Jonathan in Kiev, so we invited him in Kiev, and we made very big event just to encourage scientists. So we had more than 100 actually scientists from different fields, because Ipcc, it's not only physical basis, it's social, it's biology, it's botanics, so all kind of actually scientists participated, and we explained how Ipcc works. And then I had more than 20 of them, actually, they wanted to nominate themselves to Ipcc. And 3 of them were actually selected. So it's not, and it's good actually to have at least 3. And this was first time actually from Ukraine. We have so many, and actually we are first authors from Ukraine. So I would encourage you to apply at least. So it will reward. But then we gather as authors, and we produce first order draft, which goes to public, let's say, review. So many experts, so anyone who supposed to be expert in climate can register him or herself and have a look at the report and put comments. All comments are open, so it's prevent from very rude comments. So people should be aware that they will be spotted after all. So most of the comments actually very constructive, so it's even help us as author. And usually people say you could say in this paper and you will see it's more, and it is really very helpful for us. So in this process we go few times. So it's first of the draft, then second of the draft, then our draft actually goes to governments, and governments can review and put their comments, and then it goes to approval at plenary, where we approve summary for policymakers. So it's really very long process. That's why actually this report takes so much time. So where policymakers can influence, actually on many places, they can have different influence, but the influence, limited in fact. So we are as authors, we are responsible what is in the report. After all, we are authors, so we can listen to these comments. We should actually answer every comment, but anyway, it's our responsibility what will be in the report. So, and we had actually meetings. Unfortunately, during this pandemic time, our last meeting, it was really very difficult. So we made a lot of these meetings online, which is not so easy for us, but we managed. So this report was really first our such achievement. Many of us had sleepless nights, for sure. So where? From where the authors of report? And you see that the most actually authors coming from United States. Well, it's where actually most money comes to science. So if be honest, well, and then in Europe for sure it's UK and Germany again. So it's really leading countries for this. But in Asia as well, there are many authors and less authors from global source, let's say. But it's more or less, diverse world, let's say, of us authors. And we, in this working group 1, actually, we had more than 2,000 authors from 65 countries, and we assessed more than 14,000 of scientific publication. We've got more than 78,000 of review comments, in fact. And what we had 63 first-time Ipcc authors. So it's pretty big, actually, part of authors who were newcomers. So it's a process of learning, and it's very good, actually. It's fresh blood, let's say, for Ipcc. So we have this report. Then I will go for report itself. And some of these key findings, maybe you already know some of them, but it's just to emphasize that it's now, matter of fact, that this climate change actually widespread, rapid, and intensified, and unprecedented in thousands of years. Well, how we know again? So we have some measurements in last more than 100 years. So this graph actually shows this, and we have these 2,000 of years, which actually reveal this very high high rate of warming, in fact. And we know that this is the last decade, it's 1.1 degree warmer as pre-industrial time. Moreover, well, actually, last 4 decades were consequently warmer than previous this pre-industrial period. And again, it's just the same, almost the graph which Klaus Hasselmann produced for his attribution study. So just to show that this observed and modeled global actually temperature, they follow the same road. And if we don't have, so if we simulate only natural actually sources of variability, you will not have such a big rate of warming. And actually this observed warming, it's the warmest period in, you see, it's 100,000 of years. So it's really very big period of time. So we know actually not only about temperature, we know it's about concentration as well. So this concentration is highest in at least 2 million years. and sea level fastest rise in at least fastest in 3,000 years. And we have lowest level in at least 1,000 years of Arctic sea ice, and glaciers retreat actually unprecedented in at least 2,000 years. So it's really big, impact on our nature. So what we can say, so it's indisputable now that human activity is causing climate change, making extreme climate events, including heat waves, heavy rainfall, and droughts, more frequent and severe. Well, and we know all this actually happens in Central Asia as in other actually places of world, particularly droughts. They increase in Central Asia, but as well as extreme heat and fire weather. Ocean is not relevant for Central Asia, but anyway, ocean have impact on all our planet. So we should be worried about them as well. So hot streams became more frequent and intense. Ocean warming and ocean acidification really threaten our food chain. Changes we see in frozen areas, it's actually relevant for high mountains in Central Asia countries as well. And yeah, it's mostly about snow cover, which actually for northern parts of Kazakhstan, I guess, very relevant as well. Well, it's very usually to ask how much of human actually influence in all this observed warming you have. So if we see, so this observed warming is 1.1, and this total human influence is 106, in fact. And it consists of two parts, which first of them, it's greenhouse gas warming, and other part, it's actually cooling due to aerosol, so it's pollution and aerosol particles in the air. And we can see that actually natural factors, they are very low. So these natural factors, they include actually and solar cycle and volcanoes. So it's within 0.1 actually degree. And internal variability, which is very relevant to temperature, actually it's within 0.2 degrees. So it's really not what we need to be taken into account, in fact. Well, and now we come to region, actually. So it's affecting all regions on Earth in multiple ways. And these changes we experienced will increase with further warming. And it's interesting, actually, graph here I just want to show you. It shows this graph all continents and all countries. And in this continent, so here is Asia and all countries in Asia, and how this temperature evolved during this last century. And you see that after this 80s, almost no blue color. And in this last decade, in fact, really threatening brown, in fact, mostly in Europe, but second place you see it's in Asia, in fact. So if you go to countries, so it's very famous stripes, warming stripes for different countries. And here you see countries which are in Central Asia. They are not, they are not in top high, which are more to polar region, in fact, but they're in top half, let's say, because I usually present Ukraine, which is second actually decade, well, second tenth, but anyway, for Central Asia countries, it's a lot of warming you see. So now coming to Asia, so how Asia actually represented in our report. So we have now much more regions than in previous report. And here we have West Central Asia, which I will not cover now, and this will be covered by Mohammed later on. But we have this West Siberia, which, and actually here it's East Europe, which are relevant for north part of Kazakhstan as well. So I will just to show that actually this report has third of this report dedicated to regional climate information. And you can go to the web page of Ipcc and you can find this regional fact sheet we prepared especially for different continents and Asia as well. And there you will see more details for these regions. Well, in our report, we put much more attention to connect climate with impact. And for this, it was connected via these climatic impact drivers, which we put in different categories. And some of them have some thresholds, which if you go over this threshold, it will lead to severe consequences for people, agriculture, or ecosystems. And you will find it in the report if you go there. Actually, these categories, they divided, it's 30 of these climatic impact drivers for land region and 5 for open ocean. And actually this figure from Summary for Policymakers just represent a number of regions where it's relevant. So mean temperature and extreme heat, they are relevant for most of regions. Oh, sorry. Well, but for some other climatic impact drivers like mean precipitation. So in some regions we have more precipitation, in some less, in fact, and you need to go deeply in these regions to see. But in many regions, actually, there are multiple these climatic impact drivers have impact, in fact. So it's another very important, actually, conclusion from the report. So I prepared actually this presentation for North Asia, but it's really relevant for this region as well, just to show you difference between scenarios of global warming level of 1.5 and 4 degrees. So it's two very big, let's say, extent of scenarios. And you see here it's for maximum temperature over 35 degrees. And you see here a tremendous difference actually in this northern part of Kazakhstan particularly, and in southern part, how it will go for different scenarios. And it's definitely with this extreme events, fire season will lengthen, in fact. So you will see this as climatic impact drivers, this fire weather. You will see it in interactive atlas, which actually Richard will present later. But just to show you these small maps, it is relevant for permafrost, but not for your region. Again, well, but heavy precipitation and flood, it's relevant for West Central Asia as well. And river flood, yes, the same, I guess you have. And I guess heavy snowfall, not. But seasonal snow will have less extent. And again, so it's just to show you this difference in snowfall, the same for these different scenarios. Well, so what we found in this report as well, that most of the changes we expect, they related to water cycle. So with warmer temperatures, what we have, we know that atmosphere can hold more water. Actually, it's this more water. For every degree, it's 7% more water can hold atmosphere. With warmer temperature, we have more and faster evaporation, and it will lead to heavy precipitation. So this is a chain of this water cycle. And when we have much more global warming, we will have heavier precipitation and intensifying drying season and droughts. So it's more, it's go both ways, in fact. And just to show you that actually I was involved in one project, I guess, related to what you just showed. My institute made this project for carrots. Well, we produced the scenarios for three scenarios, actually. We use 8 models and 3 slime slices, and we put it for 3 countries. And what we've got for these 3 scenarios for these countries, and this is how for scenario 1 for 2.6, 4.5, and 7. And you see that the difference is really what I've just said about this water cycle, in fact. So much less precipitation you will have for this much warmer scenario in summer season and at the end of the century. And it's what actually in our report says. So hot extremes will be, it's one event for 10 years in pre-industrial time. In our present time, we have 3 times more. And if it will be only 2 degrees warmer, we will have almost 6 times more this event. So it means every actually 2 years we will have it. And the same with heavy precipitation and droughts you will have. So you can find it in SPM. So we need to, in order to have actually less warming, we need to limit global warming, strong, rapid, and sustained reduction on CO2. And I'm pretty sure that at this conference, you heard a lot about this. So we need to reduce our CO2 emissions. So these different scenarios, they just show you where you will stop if you will limit our, let's say, human activities, and it will go to different levels of warming, in fact. And the problem is why we need to do it, because we have cumulative actually emissions, and these cumulative emissions, they will lead to different times when you will reach this 1.5 or 2 degrees or higher warming levels. So that's why this is important. And I just invite you maybe to see on this open climate data net. And there you will see very nice this animation where you can see emission from the last century, and where you see very clear this reducing of emissions in COVID. But it didn't help, in fact, because concentration go up anyway. And here you see the temperature, and you see that the emissions goes up after the Second World War. Then after in 60s, it goes up concentration, so 20 years after, and you have this pretty high warming level in 80s. So it's again 20 years after. So it just says us that we will not see very quick response of temperature. So we need first cut emissions, then we will have less concentration in the air, and then we will have less temperature. So CO2 makes a difference, and we need to sustain our ocean and land, which are actually sink for carbon dioxide. And just the last, our message that the climate we will experience in future depends on our decision now. And I want to thank you, and sorry, maybe I am really very over time, sorry.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. It was really comprehensive presentation on what the Ipcc does and what can be extracted from the work of Ipcc. By this, we are moving to the next speaker. The next presentation is going to be overview of the latest Ipcc climate report and key findings for Southern Central Asia by Muhammad Rahimi, Ipcc author. This presentation is going to be done online through the Zoom. And also, I would also like to pass by this, the moderating of this session to our colleague, Mr. Jonathan Lane. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, dear scientists, policymakers from Central Asia. I'm Mohammad Rahimi, faculty member of Samnan University, Iran. I'm one of the lead author from West Asia in AR6, chapter 12, and contributing lead author for Atlas chapter. And thanks for CAREC for organizing this very wonderful pavilion 511. And thanks for my colleagues in Ipcc Secretariat and also my colleagues in Working Group 1, Richard and Svitlana. And thanks, Svitlana, for your comprehensive presentation. Okay. The Central Asia region is located in 4 Ipcc sub-region: East Europe, West Siberia, West Central Asia, and East Central Asia. Sorry, I don't know what's the problem with this small window in the middle of the my window. Okay, that's okay now. Thank you. So my colleague Svitlana already presented some key findings about the north part of Central Asia. I will focus on southern part of Central Asia, but before that, I would like very briefly to explain the uncertainty language of the Ipcc about the confidence and likelihood, because we use this language for our statement, like high confidence or medium confidence or likely, very likely. This confidence level are based on the level of the evidence and also the agreement between the articles. For Central Asia, also West Asia, we had some lack of enough evidence sometimes. I know that there are very good material, but maybe in national language. So the other problem is that we need more scientists actually from Central Asia and West Asia for becoming more productive. The reflection of the climate change situation and climate change impacts in Central Asia and in West Asia. So as Svitlana already discussed, we have high confidence for increasing heat events and decreasing the cold events in all parts of the world, especially in Central Asia and West Asia. And however, Central Asia is not engaged with the marine heat waves, but this kind of heat waves are very important for the people that are living in the coasts and near the oceans. That is very important in comparison to the land heat waves. And this is a very interesting picture, hexagonal shapes, that this one is about the hot extremes that, as you see in most of the regions in the world, we have increasing in the hot events for West Central Asia, East Central Asia, East Europe, and West Siberia. We have increasing the hot extremes and with high confidence in human contribution to the observed change. The other issue is precipitation. Average and heavy precipitation will increase over much of Asia, but we have medium confidence in this section. This is another picture for heavy precipitation. For West Central Asia and East Central Asia, we have increasing precipitation, but we have low confidence because of limited agreement. It means that we have enough literature, but they don't support each other. So the solution is having more literature. Regarding the fire weather seasons will lengthen and intensify, particularly in North Asia region, with medium confidence. Regarding the wind and cyclones, mean surface wind speeds have decreased with high confidence, and for Central Asia with medium confidence. Also regarding the glaciers, glaciers are declining and also permafrost is thawing. That is very important for north part of the Central Asia. Seasonal snow duration, glacial mass, and permafrost also by mid of 21st century with high confidence with further declination. And changing snowmelt regime in the mountains may contribute to a shift of spring floods to earlier time in the future with medium confidence. Glacier runoff in the Asian high mountains, especially in Himalaya region maybe, will increase up to mid 21st century with medium confidence. So regarding the East Central...
You still there?
Sorry?
I think we lost the connection with Mohammed, so maybe while he's coming back, we could go into Richard's presentation. Would that be okay? Yeah.
Okay, can I continue?
You're back now, Mohammed.
Jonathan, can you hear me? Can I continue? Can I continue? Can you hear me, Jonathan?
We hear you.
Hi, Mohammed. I'm afraid we can't hear you.
Says admit.
Problem? Any problem?
У нас со спикером что-то не то, или это у нас что-то не то?
Ну, участники могут вас слышать, и презентацию тоже.
Кто в Zoom, ответьте мне, пожалуйста. У нас или у него?
Мы слышим спикера.
Да, мы слышим и видим.
Кто в Zoom, ответьте мне, пожалуйста, у кого проблема?
Yes, Richard, I can hear
We'll
you.
try and get Mohammed back.
Okay, well, I can hear you. I'm speaking to you through my computer now, but I'm afraid it looks like we've lost the audio feed from the computer in the tech room.
Okay. Okay, so what's your suggestion? Can I continue or stop here for your presentation?
So yeah, I'm going to. I think the idea is I'll give my presentation now, and then we'll try to get you back so you can finish off yours afterwards.
Okay, the floor is yours, Richard. Thank you.
Okay.
Слышно?
Да, мы вас слышим.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so if I could have my presentation, please. Share my presentation on the screen. So whilst we're waiting for my presentation to come up, so my name is Richard Jones. I'm from the Met Office Hadley Centre in the UK. I was one of the coordinating lead authors for the Atlas in the Working Group 1 report. And I just also like to extend my thanks to Karek for inviting me to give this this presentation. So I'm going to discuss the interactive atlas. My presentation did appear for a second on the screen, so there we go. Here it is. The interactive atlas is a part of the Working Group 1 report. So in the Working Group 1 report, one of the 4 regional chapters that we have in the report, that dealt with regional information was the atlas. So the atlas itself exists as a chapter where we did an assessment of mean climate change. But in addition to that, we also developed this online tool, the interactive atlas, to allow people to explore more of the data that was used in the report. So the data on observed changes, some of the model projections, and also to introduce some regional observational data sets which were used in the atlas to in the assessment of regional climate change, observed regional climate change over the different regions. So the atlas itself, if we could go to the next slide, please. No, because so the purpose of the interactive atlas was as a support to the assessment done within the chapters, also within the technical summary, the synthesis of the information for the chapters in the technical summary, and also in the SPM. So it is just one of the products of the Working Group 1 report, along with the main report and these regional fact sheets. And if you would like to go and explore the interactive atlas, the web address is on the screen at the moment. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the interactive atlas was to give a focus on regional climate changes. So we developed a new set of land and ocean reference regions, which allows us to look at the changes over these specific regions, either observed changes or future projected changes. We also have other regional representations for monsoons, small islands, continental regions, and major river basins. Next slide, please. And the interactive atlas involves two main components. The first is the regional information component, which is where you can explore in a lot of detail the information that is used within the assessment report. And then the regional synthesis component, which is a companion to the technical summary and the summary of policymakers, which is where you can explore the regional synthesis results which were developed in the technical summary and the summary for policymakers. Next slide, please. So within the interactive atlas, we have a wide range of atmospheric, oceanic, and other variables. So a few examples are given on the screen here, such as annual maximum temperature, the number of days where the temperature in a particular region has gone over either 35 or 40 degrees, number of frost days, the number of heating degree days, and all of these are examples of these climatic impact drivers, which Svetlana introduced earlier, which are these states of the climate system which are particularly relevant to impacts and risk assessment. So one of the key aspects of the report was to develop information which had direct relevance to impacts and risk assessment. And in order to facilitate that, there was a process of interaction between Working Group 1 and Working Group 2 to understand what climate information we could generate in the Working Group 1 report, which would be most relevant to the Working Group 2 assessment. Next slide, please. So in terms of the regional information, there are two subcomponents to the regional information option. The first is a simple interface, which allows you to explore the climate futures at 3 different global warming levels, so 1.5, 2, and 4 degrees. And here, what you could do is to look at, for example, things like the time series of how the variables will evolve, or you can look at tabular information about the average amount of warming or precipitation change for a given region at the different warming levels in this interface. Next slide, please. The advanced interface allows you to explore these futures in more detail. So here you can select between different warming levels, or you can look at different time periods in the future under different emission scenarios, and then you can calculate these changes with respect to different baselines. But also there's information about paleoclimate as well, which is contained, and also information about observed changes, which is also contained in the other part of the regional information. The regional synthesis component allows you to explore how these climatic impact drivers are expected to change in the future. And so the graphic on the right gives you a representation of all of these climatic impact drivers. So 30 for the land regions and then 5 for the oceanic regions. And the map there is an example of one of these, which is heavy precipitation, and how that is expected to change in the future. The dark colors are where we have high confidence, the lighter colors are where we have medium confidence. So now what I will do is I will switch to sharing my screen, and I will give you a demonstration of how the interactive atlas actually works in practice. So this is the landing page of the interactive atlas when you go to that web address. And first of all, so the first thing you see is that there is a spinning globe on the top right-hand side, which shows you the regional distribution of temperature increase at different warming levels, and you can have the same for precipitation. We're looking here at a 2-degree world. So I will now just very briefly go into the regional synthesis, and this is an example of one of the views in the regional synthesis. So this is looking at changes in aridity, and what we're looking at is the changes expected in the future in about the 2050s at a warming level of about 2 degrees, and the purple is where we are expecting increases in aridity, and the brown and the yellow is where we're expecting decreases. So this shows here that West Central Asia is one of those areas where we're expecting an increase in aridity in the future. If you wanted to focus on a specific Asian region, then the regions component of the regional synthesis allows you to focus on a specific region. So here we can actually choose West Central Asia, and this gives you a summary of all of the changes that we are expecting in the future in the middle column. And then in the right-hand column, it shows you the evidence that we have of the observed changes that have been seen in the recent past. The third component of the regional synthesis is the ability to combine a different set, a specific set of climatic impact drivers to be able to show how a different set of variables are expected to change across the region. So here we can do things like we can choose extreme heat, mean precipitation, landslide, aridity, fire weather, and maybe snow. And we can get a picture for a particular region. And so this is using the hexagon representation. So for example, for West Central Asia, we could get a picture of how these 6 different climatic impact drivers are expected to change in the future, and also the evidence of how they have changed in the past, which really makes it very clear that all of these regions are expected to see multiple changes in these variables in the future. So I will very, very briefly go back to the other component of the interactive atlas, which is the regional information. And here, as I said, you could explore in a lot more detail the data sets that we used in the report. So for example, if you go to the dataset tab, you have the ability to look at projections from CMIP6 and CMIP5. So these are 2 of the large global modeling ensembles that we used in the report, but also information from regional downscaling experiments. So these are what are shown as the Cordex experiments in this list. You also have a whole series of different observational data sets which you can look at. So global observational data sets such as CREW-TS or Berkeley Earth, or some regional observational data sets such as Aphrodite for Asia. You have this shows you the list of the variables that you can look at across the regions. Initially, we were looking at temperature, but maybe what I'll do now is just to change to total precipitation. And the third tab allows you to choose different periods and different scenarios. So perhaps in this case, we will look at the medium term under the SSP3 scenario, and also you could choose the season that you're interested in. So in this case, maybe what we could look at is the winter season. And so this gives you a picture of the expected precipitation change in the winter season in the 2050s under a high emission scenario, the SSP scenario. One of the features of the Interactive Atlas allows you to split the screen, so you can actually look, you can compare. In this case, on the left is the original picture that we were looking at with SSP 3 7.0, but you can also compare that with what happens under a low emission scenario. So now on the right hand side, we're looking at SSP 1 2.6. And so this allows you to compare how precipitation is expected to change in the future between high emissions and low emissions. So that's a very, very brief overview of the functionality of the Interactive Atlas and just a very brief demonstration of how it works in practice. So I'll now hand back to Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. That was a fascinating presentation. I'm sure we'll all want to go away afterwards and check that out. And again, it's hopefully a good way in for the local scientific community in the region to start to explore some of these topics. So I'll just check whether Mohammed can join us again. Is that do we have you again? See you on the screen there. If so, then perhaps if you can talk to us, then perhaps another 5 minutes to finish your presentation. Can we bring Mohammed in?
Can you hear me, Jonathan?
Can we put Mohammed's presentation back up there?
I cannot share my screen.
Oh.
Can you manage my slide, please, right now, or other colleagues?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just getting there.
Has disabled my
we can get to where
screen sharing. I'm not host. Okay. Can you go forward? East Central Asia slide, please. I want to resume my presentation from that point. Next slide.
I can't hear Richard. Sorry, I can't hear Mohammed. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Jonathan, now?
I can hear only very, very faintly. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. Mohammed, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can
hear
now
you.
We
can hear
You need to
brilliant.
switch to a different channel. You're speaking to an English channel or Russian channel. You need to.
So we can hear Mohammed on channel 5.
You need to switch off all the channels and just go to regular channel. Don't use any translation channels. I think that's the issue.
Sorry, Mohammed, you need to change your channel.
Yeah. What about
3.
now? What about now?
No,
can you hear
to
me?
3. He is speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Mohammed. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please.
I cannot hear him. Here,
Now,
like in the floor, I cannot hear him.
Now, what about now?
Mohammed, я его не слышу.
Sorry, the interpreters can't hear you. You need to go back to the.
Mohammed,
you need to go back to the
can
other
you hear
channel.
me?
Number
You need
3.
to switch channels.
Yeah, I switched it.
To what channel? You need to turn off any translation. Just use regular Zoom, like switch it off completely.
Yeah, I switched off now. Can you hear me now?
Just wait, keep talking. Wait a second, keep talking.
5.
Okay, thank you.
I think we'll just have to do it on 5 without interpretation.
Okay.
And if you can just spend 5 minutes to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you next slide, please? Next one. Yes, that's okay. Regarding the agricultural and ecological drought, about the Central Asia, persistent drought were the main factor for grassland degradation and desertification in Central Asia in the early 21st century. So the agricultural and ecological drought is very important for West Central Asia. The next one, please. Can you please next slide? Okay, thank you. For the wind, we have a significant decrease in Central Asia, among the highest in the world. Next one, please. And fire weather is also very important for West Central Asia, especially for northern part of Central Asia. And according to our assessment, the potential burned areas in 5 Central Asian countries will increase by 2 to 8% in 2030s and 3 to 13s in 2080s, compared with baseline 1971 to 2000 with medium confidence. That's my final slide. And next one, please. Here, there are more connection with Ipcc. That if you want to know more about Ipcc, you can connect with these channels. And my final remarks that suggest CARIC to extract working group 1 findings about the Central Asia and disseminate that for the other countries, and also for engagement of more scientists and academia and young scientists from the Central Asia. It is very important for the next cycle of assessment, AR7. So actually we have lack of lead authors from Central Asia and West Asia as well. So I suggest CARIC to establish a small non-official office for gathering the young scientists on the umbrella of the CARIC and activate this potential of the Central Asian scientists and young scientists to get involved more in the next assessment cycle. Thank you. Sorry for these interruptions. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, and sorry as well for the inconvenience at your end. So I think Svetlana already covered the section on how you can contribute to the Ipcc in her first presentation. So we've got how much, about 10 minutes, I think, for Q&A. So if there are any questions, I'm not sure how we would receive questions from people following us online, but there's one at the back in the room here, the lady there.
Спасибо большое всем экспертам за прекрасные презентации. Это было очень интересно. И меня очень радует, что 6-й оценочный доклад включает намного больше информации касательно Центральноазиатского региона и ожидаемых изменений, которые там будут и уже наблюдается. У меня есть такой вопрос к первому спикеру о том, как необходимо вовлекаться в эту работу, то есть как можно больше узнать об этом, потому что на самом деле у нас очень много людей, которые занимаются наукой, но, возможно, они просто недостаточно осведомлены об этом. Также я хотела бы уточнить еще один момент у последнего спикера, к сожалению, я не запомнила ваше имя, касательно атласа. Как часто или есть ли возможность вообще проведения обучения для наших экспертов, которые занимаются прогнозированием, потому что эта работа, которую ведет Ipcc, очень важна. И на самом деле наши специалисты могли бы на ее основе делать свои исследования по тому, как будет меняться изменение климата, какие сценарии и что ожидает. И, может быть, это намного бы облегчило работу для наших экспертов, которые работают в области гидрометеорологии и прогнозирования по части климата. Потому что лица, принимающие решения, когда они читают эти доклады, они довольно сложные. И лично я сама, когда я пыталась посмотреть ту информацию, которая мне нужна, например, по Казахстану, довольно сложно было понять, к какому региону именно конкретно относится Казахстан. Понятно, что там есть Азия, но нет конкретики, как точно попасть именно по тем наблюдениям, которые будут происходить именно в нашем регионе, в нашей стране. Потому что Центральная Азия, она отдельно не выделяется, а выделяется Восточная Азия или другая. То есть более подробно, как можно будет понять, где именно нужно смотреть именно по Центральной Азии. И у меня еще один вопрос. Вы говорили, что мы видим, что Казахстан и другие страны Центральной Азии очень подвержены изменениям климата. И мы видим, что в отличие от глобальной температуры, намного больше будет происходить изменения именно в регионе Центральной Азии. Вы можете сказать, с чем это связано? Ну, понятно, что повышение температуры, таяние ледников и все остальное, да, это воздействует. Но почему именно в нашем регионе температура будет расти быстрее? Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Richard, do you want to take the question about the interactive atlas? And then I'll do the first one about getting involved with the Ipcc, which Svetlana might also join in. So if you take the interactive atlas question first.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I'll respond on the issue of the interactive atlas. So in addition to the outreach events we've been doing here at COP, we are planning further more detailed outreach events across all regions. So the Ipcc task group on data has got plans to do outreach events which go into more detail about the interactive atlas, that explain about the data that goes into it, that is behind it, and will provide more information on how to use it. So we would be very happy. We don't have detailed plans of exactly where these events will be happening, but we would be very happy to set up a specific event for Central Asia as part of that outreach activities.
Thank you. And then on the first question, well, firstly, we rely very much on our friends from CAREC to inform scientific community and the public about the work of the Ipcc in the region, and we very much hope we'll have more opportunities to do what we've already done a few times. At various points in the Ipcc process of preparing reports, there are invitations to people to take part. There, we rely on the focal points that each government has for the Ipcc to inform the scientific community. And perhaps in those cases, CAREC can also play a role in amplifying. But I would say that there are two things that are very important for you to do. The first thing is to encourage your scientists to publish information, publish research about the region. If you look at the end of a chapter in an Ipcc report, you'll generally almost always see a section on these are the areas where we need more research. These can be a very useful guide and stimulus to your scientists for areas that they can look into. So it's very important that you publish, because as I said before, if no science is published, the Ipcc has nothing to work with. So that's the most important thing by far. If it can be published in English, better still, but of course it can be published in Russian as well. It's more difficult for our scientists to access research that's published in the local languages in the region, but not impossible. There are ways of doing that too. I'll just say one more thing. Then the other thing is the review process of the Ipcc reports. And as you heard from Svetlana, when the authors draft a report, they invite the other experts to comment on them. By expert, we mean anyone, everyone who thinks they have something to contribute. You don't need any special qualifications to be an expert reviewer of an Ipcc report. You must just register with us. And for instance, your contribution may be, this is very interesting what you've written here, but I think you've ignored this important piece of research that was published in one of our journals. And here's a translation of the abstract of that piece. So please check it out and see if that will inform your draft, your next draft of the report. Now, just
Yes, I would like to just add a few more points on the question that was raised and the answers you gave. As I said in my opening speech, CAREC is providing this opportunity to meet and to conduct the meetings in Central Asia. The first meeting was held in 2019 when CAREC has organized the first meeting with the Ipcc representatives in the Central Asian region. And since then, we are in very close cooperation with this network of academicians, as I said in my opening speech. And we are trying to bridge the scientific community from Central Asia with the Ipcc authors. Nevertheless, I think your question is very important and a very good signal for us to continue holding these kind of series of these kind of meetings with wider by widely publicizing about the planned meetings with representatives or with the authors from Ipcc in the region. We will take that into account and we will keep you informed on the upcoming meetings in the region. So also I would like to remind about the chat that is on right now, and you can see that there were some questions raised and answers provided to the questions online. So if you have questions, specific questions, you can put them and you will get more concrete answers on the chat. And as I see, there was a hand raised. Yes, there was someone, Yuri Garot. There was, I don't see the name, Yuri Gorachov. I would like to, yes. Okay, would you please add your points, and then I would like to let you know that there are questions from the Zoom as well. So they also have an opportunity to ask.
Я могу ответить на русском, чтобы, может, было проще, скажем так. В этом отчете, на самом деле, по поводу того, как быть вовлеченным, мы пытались взять достаточно много литературы локальной. То есть я искала литературу на русском языке, и на самом деле национальные сообщения брались в отчет, они не считаются как бы peer-reviewed, но в принципе она скорее grey literature, но поскольку это национальное сообщение, все-таки мы их брали во внимание. Но мне надо было перевести абстракты на английский язык и так далее. Таким же образом я, например, брала литературу на украинском языке. То есть я, будучи с Украины, я могла тоже, я знала литературу этого региона, я могла с переводом тоже. То есть если у вас будут авторы и вы как эксперты будете считать, что эта литература нужна, вы тоже можете ее туда как бы в отчет рекомендовать, по крайней мере. Вот. Относительно Казахстана и стран, и атласа, и регионов. В первой рабочей группе мы вообще не делили на страны. Мы делали регионы согласно климату, согласно климатическим зонам. И поэтому, собственно говоря, ну, я понимаю, вам сложно, потому что страна получается разделенная по разным регионам. Во второй рабочей группе там по странам, потому что много что, в общем, много информации берется по странам. Вот, ну, что вам, я могу только посоветовать взять те данные, которые у нас в атласе, и, возможно, сделать что-то похожее, потому что я, например, так собираюсь делать для Украины тоже.
Thank you, Svetlana. Well, we're almost at the end, but I think we have some questions on Zoom, so maybe we could take one of those. So that's Yuri Gorachov, yeah? Are you able? How do we get the question? Can Yuri speak? Yeah. Yeah. So speak into your microphone, and hopefully we can hear you. Over to you, Yuri.
Я могу говорить, да? Я из России.
Можно вопрос задать?
Юрий, у вас, по-моему, микрофон выключен.
Я сейчас перевожу.
We can hear you. You need to unmute yourself, Yuri, if you're speaking.
Юрий отключился вообще, да, или что?
I don't think we ever had Yuri.
I think Yuri is...
Yeah, Yuri, if you write the question in the chat, and Svetlana will reply to you. And in the meantime, we'll take our last question from here.
Добрый день. Меня зовут Кретова Зоя, я из Кыргызстана, из России. Да, я занимаюсь также анализом изменения климата. Я долгое время работала в Кыргызгидромете. И, то есть имею информацию о том, какие климатические изменения происходят у нас в стране. Но, к сожалению, у нас в стране нет рецензируемых научных статей, которые могли бы быть помещены вот в Ipcc Report. Но хотелось бы отметить такой интересный факт, что по оценке изменения климата текущего в Кыргызстане, в принципе, по оценке изменения климата в Казахстане, который публикуется Казгидрометом, основные климатические изменения наиболее быстрыми темпами температура, например, растет в весенний период в Центральноазиатском регионе. А по ансамблю климатических моделей основной рост температуры ожидается в летний период, для нашего региона особенно. Вот могли бы вы прокомментировать, как вот все-таки, допустим, когда проводятся консультации с общественностью, когда говоришь, что ожидается в будущем для принятия адаптационных мер, то есть приходится объяснять, что сейчас весной температура растет, но по оценке климатических сценариев все-таки наибольший рост будет ожидаться летом. И вот здесь немножечко начинается несоответствие. Вот как нам быть, или, может быть, это вот такая ошибка крупномасштабного прогноза? У меня все, спасибо.
Хорошо. Ну, на самом деле, то, что было и то, что будет, это все-таки разные вещи. Потому что если как бы росло у вас температура весной, а в будущем прогнозируется летом, ну, я не вижу здесь больших, честно говоря, проблем. Вот, это одно. Потом надо, конечно, понимать, что этот летний сезон, он просто как бы расширяется, да, то есть, в общем-то, это тоже. Ну, я бы сказала так, это очень специфический вопрос, которым нужно смотреть и разбираться с этими датасетами, делать верификацию моделей и так далее. Вот, я помню, что, честно говоря, не ответила на вопрос, вы говорили тоже по поводу, почему у вас больше температура растет. Ну, на самом деле, больше температура растет в полярных регионах, если так. То есть даже вот по этим оценкам, то есть больше всего, ну, если говорить в градусах, да, то, в принципе, больше всего именно в полярных, потому что там холоднее всего. То есть это такой принцип. То есть где холоднее, там как бы больше, поэтому и растет. Вот. И, ну, но тут же вопрос даже не только в росте средней температуры. Тут проблема в большей степени именно в том, что это провоцирует увеличение экстремальных погодных явлений. И температуры, которые выше 35 градусов, которые идет влияние уже на здоровье и, там, и на все остальное. И поэтому ну, мы в своем отчете не отвечаем на все вопросы. Еще будет второй отчет, второй рабочей группы, где как раз будет этот импакт, то есть влияние и все остальное. Вот. Но это в большей степени, ну, как бы encourage, да, то есть вас, ну, местных экспертов, как бы, я не могу слово подобрать, русское encourage, как бы, чтобы вы делали больше своей работы на местах и, ну, в общем, где-то так.
Thank you, Svetlana. Well, we've gone over our time, so I'm just going to just say thank you very much for everyone for attending this event, to our speakers for their great contributions, for the good questions. Maybe I don't know whether this is a crazy idea, but maybe CAREC could found a peer-reviewed journal for the region. Then we solve one problem very quickly. It's a big step, but maybe we should think about that. Zafar, maybe you'd like to just say a few words to close the meeting. Thank you.
Да, спасибо большое. Я бы хотел еще раз поблагодарить всех наших участников сегодняшнего сайд-ивента. Как вы видите, сейчас у нас одновременно проходят в этом павильоне 4 мероприятия. Один сайд-ивент, который вы сейчас видите, проходят двухсторонние встречи в зале встреч и еще 2 тоже двухсторонних встреч слева от нас между странами. Я думаю, что вот этот вот интерес в вопросах изменения климата, он вот к концу мероприятий все больше и больше возрастает. То есть получается, что наши партнеры находят новых партнеров, они договариваются. И я хочу сказать, что организация этого мероприятия, этого сайд-ивента, оно дает возможность именно ответить на тот вопрос, который был задан от представителя Казахстана, что путем проведения вот таких мероприятий появляется возможность напрямую узнать авторов, найти контакты и в дальнейшем запланировать встречи для более подробного обсуждения вопросов, которые вас интересуют. РЦА в дальнейшем продолжит организовывать такие встречи. Если есть запросы на проведение конкретных мероприятий, мы это тоже учтем и постараемся их также в дальнейшем организовать. Спасибо большое всем еще раз. Особенно благодарю я представителей МГИ, которые, несмотря на то, что у них такой плотный график, я хожу по павильонам и смотрю, что каждый день почти на каждых мероприятиях где-то какой-то представитель, какой-то научный сотрудник МГИ выступает. И я благодарю, что сразу 3 пришли к нам с выступлениями. Спасибо вам большое и желаю вам удачи. Вот вы оставшиеся еще 3 дня на конференции сторон. Спасибо большое.
Юрий, вы можете написать свое сообщение имейлом, и мы потом на ваши вопросы все ответим.
У меня включился микрофон. Но
и вас все равно не слышно, Юрий.
1, 2, 3, не слышно. 1, 2, 3, не слышно. Должно быть слышно. 1, 1. Раз, 2, 3.
Юрий, вас, скорее всего, не слышно в зале.
А вы меня слышите, кто-нибудь?
Да, в зуме вас слышно.
Ну, в зале должно быть слышно.
Да, в зуме слышно, только в зале вас не слышат почему-то.
Ну, может, там не дошло что-то. Я бы хотел важную информацию и свой опыт рассказать, буквально несколько секунд, по опыту по России, по Казахстану, создания биосферных территорий, замкнутых экосистем. Ну, я понимаю, конференция закрывается, да?
Ну нет, давайте мы, пока не закрылась, давайте мы вас послушаем, очень интересно.
Да, давайте я попытаюсь быстро. Я считаю, что это очень важно. Буквально несколько минут, там, секунд. Смотрите, я представлюсь. Горохов Юрий Иванович, архитектор, член Союза архитекторов России. Иркутск, Рязань, часто 20 лет Рязани. Значит, я член-корреспондент Российской инженерной академии с января этого года. Когда я приехал в Рязань, я подошел к теме создания нового подхода к жизни человека на Земле. Я собирал команду и создано, скажем, с моим участием непосредственных, да, несколько поселений. Их называют по-разному: эко-поселения. Поселение правильнее, это родовых поместий, и еще, может быть, название биосферное поселение. Одно из самых больших, это которое я создавал, поселение Теремки, 240 гектар, по 1,5 гектара на семью в собственность. Я делал генплан, оформляли землю, и после этого, скажем, стали возникать некоторые понимания, как можно планировать места проживания человека на Земле, чтобы это давать уникальный, скажем, эффект. Как минимум, это воссоздание природы близко к изначальному состоянию. Я у себя на участке это фактически сделал, но не в полной мере, конечно. Возникает загнутый баланс, подождите, природный баланс, замкнутой экосистемы, уникальный микроклимат. Благодаря некоторым важным подходам понимания законов природы мироздания. Мы высаживали вдвоем за сутки буквально 200-300 саженцев. Это есть несколько понятий, конечно, я сейчас много не могу сказать, но принципиальных подходов, которые могут создать такие условия. Это инновационный подход, ничего подобного пока не существует. Это позбыться от колеса определенной формы, которая дает понимание термоса. Это, значит, это создание формы своего участка, да, из виду путем высадки низкорастущих деревьев, кустарников к центру высокорастущим. И закрывается это все хвойным лесом с полянкой внутри. Своего рода солнечная ловушка. Да? И вот это все создает следующий важный момент – это уход от ветровой эрозии. Дальше. Еще есть, скажем, несколько понятий – это защита от водной эрозии. Есть защита от пожаров. Плюс еще есть такое понятие термоаккумулятор. Мы создаем у себя на участках большие, достаточно серьезные массы воды. Ну, 5-10 соток – это пруд с разной глубиной. Пруд – это термоаккумулятор. Вот если коротко, совокупность всех этих элементов, да, дает толчок для моментального, в рамках, конечно, времени, да, за считанные года воссоздания природы близко к изначальному состоянию. Воссоздается плодородие, воссоздается, значит, климат, воссоздается, значит, много очень микроорганизмов, животных, плодородие быстро создается. То есть я потом стал получать уникальные результаты, которых, скажем, на мой взгляд, по крайней мере, сейчас еще не существует. Это, по сути, продолжение работ Вернадского и Капицы. Вот. И дальше, когда я уже стал, скажем, переходить на большие территории, да, сделано порядка 20 концептуальных проектов на территории России. Это Дальний Восток, Бурятия, Иркутск, Байкальская территория, это Саратов, Рязань, Калуга. Там есть одно из наших старых поселений, авторитетных, Ковчег в Калуге, да, поселение родовых поместья. Я для них делал план развития. Вот этот новый подход, скажем, позволяет создавать такие места проживания человека, где идет положительное антропогенное воздействие на окружающую среду. До сегодняшнего дня в 99%, где жил человек, идет отрицательное воздействие на окружающую среду. При таких условиях природа возрождается, приходит состояние близко к изначальному. И создавая такие поселения, такие места проживания, мы переходим на биосферные территории, на биосферный купол, о чем я говорю. Это создается биосферный купол своего участка. Следующий уровень – биосферный купол поселения. Круг поселений создает биосферный купол круга поселений. А если еще переходить на защиту, значит, городов, да, есть такое понятие зеленые пояса городов, по крайней мере, в России, тут круг по этих поселений вокруг городов создает тоже определенные природные экологические условия для, скажем, создания природы. Здесь касается комплекса вопросов. Это, конечно, экология, природа, дальше это история, это культура, это возвращение к истокам, возвращение к знаниям предков, назовем так, пониманием человека на Земле. Дальше мы можем переходить на регионы, биосферные страны, биосферные материки, биосферные планеты. Такие технологии позволяют создавать поверхности Земли на больших территориях. Вы знаете, у нас в России на протяжении нескольких лет горят леса в Сибири, да, миллионы гектар. Высаживать леса – это, конечно, здорово, но такой подход, он дает эффективность, превышающую там на порядок по всем показателям. И, значит, ну, как сказать, мы можем не ждать, пока у нас воссоздастся природа сама, а мы можем такими технологиями, владея, воссоздать большие поверхности, в том числе пустыни, полупустыни. Вот в Казахстане фактически уже исчезает вода, но зная эти технологии, плюс подключая сюда социальные, значит, аспекты, да, все остальные, мы можем это все сделать. Но надо, конечно, здесь работать комплексно, и включая сюда и органы государственной власти, да, и широкие массы людей, граждан страны, граждан территории. Вот в это все в комплексе.